Hello and welcome to another episode of Wealthy Expat. This week I've got Charlie on the show. Charlie is the Regional Director for API Global in Europe. It's great to have you here, Charlie. Thank you for coming. I hope you're well.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. All good. Good to see you, albeit virtually, but good to see you.
Yeah, exactly. We've got to adjust. Hopefully in 2 weeks' time we'll be able to see each other face to face again. Fingers crossed that the restrictions are fully. Exactly. So it's great to have you. I thought today we'd run over some interesting topics around international investment and European investment, also understanding your journey, how you got to where you are today, and doing what you're doing essentially, and all the other little bits in between. I was fortunate enough to work with Charlie at De Vere when we were both working in London, working on some investment property stuff for De Vere. And now we've both gone our separate ways. And yeah, I guess just the property journey and the property industry, you always end up back in contact with these sort of people. So it's good to have you here. So I guess let's start off with a bit of background on you. Where did you start your journey? How did you start your journey? Why essentially did you get into property? And yeah, we can go from there, I suppose.
So I started in property effectively from when I was 7. I know I've probably told you before, Chris, but I was a very sad child, and I used to save money to buy houses. And that's genuinely, I've got no idea. I think I saw some of my family members were in property, and they were able to live comfortable lifestyles. And I think maybe from a young child, I thought, okay, I want that. So I just decided, because they did property, I'm going to. And to be honest, I've been obsessed with it since. I bought my first investment property at 18. And then ever since I bought properties, I started off very much in the what we'd call a run-of-the-mill buy-to-let route, in terms of, the simple buy-to-let residential houses. And then as you do in property, you start to experiment with other options, the off-plans, the developments, the HMOs, the social housing. So I've done an element of developments, albeit small developments personally. Obviously with API and the Veers of the world, we've done large developments, but personally it's more small developments. And to be honest, I've just lived and breathed property for a very long time now. Very long time.
Yeah, definitely. How many have you got now in your portfolio?
More than 50, less than 150. I don't like to say what the number. I do get asked that, but obviously my wife watches these things and she don't need to know those sorts of things.
Keep it secretive. That's fine. But that's an impressive portfolio nonetheless. And interesting to know, at the moment, I guess in the UK, are you still looking to invest? Is there things that are attracting you in different parts of the country, be up north or down south, or even on the Isle of Wight? It seems to be quite hot from what I've seen. Yeah,
it's what's happening. Exactly. To me, with the English, I'm biased towards the English market because I've seen, from my personal point of view, I've seen it work time and time again. So to me, when there's ever an element of uncertainty, you invest. The successful ones do. And I think if we rewind, and I know we're going to go into a bit more depth about this later, but if we rewind back to post COVID and whatnot, people were saying, oh, it's going to crash because of COVID. Well, it's been the opposite, which we'll go into detail. And I took the opportunity early doors to buy a couple. I'm glad I did, because both of those have now increased in value. And actually, I'm in the process of buying another one as we speak. And, it's a little bit more than I'd want to pay. However, as long as it's a long-term investment, you can't lose in property.
Exactly. That's the mindset. You can't look at it as a quick flip and 2-3 years down the track make a fortune off it. It's not going to happen. And so at least you've got research, that long-term mindset.
It's about making sure you invest in the right areas. Don't get me wrong, the Isle of Wight has been phenomenal since COVID, as an example. But it's about taking everything into account: long-term capital growth, yield, and the combination of all of it. And I think there is bad investments. I was about to say there's never a bad investment. There is, but as long as you do your due diligence and research, you can edge your bets against it long term.
Definitely. I think that research is key. That is key. I guess for everyone listening at the moment, and they're probably wondering why we're referencing the Isle of Wight, but Charlie lives on the Isle of Wight and also does some work over there. So that is the reason for it. I guess if we the motherland. So okay, I guess at the moment, so going back to API Global and your role in Europe as the regional director. Are you seeing areas at the moment that are seeing significantly more investment in comparison to others? Is there, hotspots? Are you seeing trends in the market over there?
I would say these trends have been going now for a few years, actually. And again, there was talk about whether it would slow up, but if anything, it's just increased. So the Northern Powerhouse has been a real focus, and I've gone through this with you in the past, Chris. The government has invested billions, overseas investors have invested lots of money. So we're still seeing the Birminghams fly in, for example. Nottingham has really come up in the last 15, 18 months. It's huge demand in Nottingham. Manchester, Liverpool, Leeds. Really the Midlands, Northern Powerhouse have been overall absolutely flying. And the investment hasn't slowed up. If anything, as I've said, it's got better.
Yeah, that's interesting. And have you seen a shift in the way in which people are investing? Back when I was working with you, there was a heavy focus on off-plan unit or apartment purchases. Have you seen a shift towards townhouses or house and land equivalents or similar things to that?
I think, but prior to COVID, we had a lot of off-plan investment. That was a predominant investment from overseas or locally, was that. But what happened with COVID, everyone sort of saw an opportunity and they wanted ready-done buildings in terms of stamp duty benefits, etc. So what we have specifically seen, is we've had to find the demand, find the supply to fit the demand we've got on ready completed developments. I mean, there's a lot of people are still going towards if it's city based, they're still going towards apartments, because I think the reality is, I think in long term, they've always got the demand in cities long term. But absolutely, it's just more gone towards ready done. However, now we're coming back out of the stamp duty holiday. We're seeing investors being open back up to the off plan. So I think the stamp duty holiday in the UK, for the investors that could benefit from the stamp duty, they did change their drive towards completed builds, whether that be townhouses or apartments.
That's interesting. Could you see them, the government, bringing out another incentive or initiative to encourage more buying? Obviously, stamp duty has been removed. There is the mortgage assistance that I believe is still going at the moment. It's the 95% government-backed mortgages. But can you see anything else coming similar to that stamp duty holiday or concession to help people get on the ladder or grow their portfolio?
I think I personally was among the opinion where the demand was still so high. I didn't think we really needed the stamp duty holiday. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. It was great. It drove some people that maybe wouldn't have considered to do property. So I didn't really feel the need of it. I mean, the market was flying anyway. And I think they've gone on a lot longer than anyone could have anticipated. So I'd be surprised if they continue on with a stamp duty stance. The Help to Buy 95% loan values, definitely, I think they really are trying to encourage first-time buyers to get on the market. So I can see that lasting for a little while yet. But I think stamp duty, they've got to draw a line in it. The first 250,000 is still free up to the end of September, for example. So that was a surprise. A lot of people bizarrely don't know that. The amount of investors or first-time buyers or home movers that actually have no idea about the end of September, the 250 is still free. So I think, to be honest, they can't. They've got to make money. They can't keep doing it.
No, exactly. They've got to make something back at the end of the day. It's a business to them as well. They need the money. That's interesting. That is interesting. I guess, have you been working on European markets, let's say, Spain or Portugal or Germany? Have you seen much investment move into places like that? Obviously, in Portugal, there's still the visa benefits, I suppose,
Yeah.
that are still in play where you can get your golden visa. But have you noticed an influx of so Portugal
definitely. I mean, that sort of started prior to COVID, and again sort of continued, and also maybe increased, I would suggest. In terms of statistics, you can get lots of different statistics, obviously. But what we've seen with Portugal is the lifestyle demand, and then the visa. Obviously, the visas being one of those. So Portugal has been a big drive. I think what we've seen trends-wise in the last 6 years have sort of just continued. So Germany and Portugal, where UK property has always been the powerhouse of Europe in terms of investment. And then what you've seen over recent years is Germany and Portugal sort of following suit. Then you get the other little niche areas, your Marbellas in Spain, some of them. Some of the areas like that, so don't get wrong, it's not just Portugal and Germany, but what you've seen over the last few years is a real drive towards those areas. I think the German market is still flying certain areas. I mean, you and I looked into Berlin before. That's still flying. Berlin. Portugal's really, really took a step up in the last 15 months. Albeit it's been pretty tricky for UK investors because the rules of visiting and all the quarantine rules have made that difficult. But what I've seen is there's been a lot of hands-off investors, which, funnily enough, in the past, people in England, everyone's been happy with hands-off investment. They will make a hands-off investment, but when it comes to the Portugals of the world, they'd like to visit. I mean, maybe because of the sun and Gulf, who knows? But they like to visit and see the physical side of it. And I think that at the very start of COVID put a little dampener on it, but then as soon as the start went, it was back to normal.
Sure, that's interesting. I was in Portugal a couple of weeks ago with an old developer, or one of my old man's developing friends, and he was saying that over the last 18 months it's been absolutely crazy with the amount of investment coming in, and people even just in the UK that have been trying to escape COVID and then ended up almost just living there now, moved over. It wasn't their intention initially, and now they've just packed up shop in the UK, love the lifestyle in Portugal, and
well, you can work.
I think it's a big driver in it. Definitely. The way in which we work now is different. It's more flexible. I wouldn't say no to living on the coast in Portugal. I think it'd be a nice place to live, but it's interesting to see it happening.
You're not far away from anything, are you? In terms of Europe, you're not far away from anything. So we have, I think UK, I mentioned, has always been the powerhouse, because I think long term the growth in the UK market's always been the strongest. But Portugal, the visa bit was the real bit that started that drive. As soon as they done the visa, people were using that. And it's a lovely place as well.
I guess it'll be interesting now as well with Brexit all gone through, and how other countries, I suppose, there might be more that follow in suit to Portugal and implement a similar process or similar rule. But I guess that'll come with time. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I guess going back to the UK, actually, at the moment, where are you in the UK specifically? Is because when we were working together, Birmingham was kind of the hot spot. We'd say we were almost pushing Birmingham the most, and HS2 had a lot to do with that, which is the high-speed rail for people listening, that connecting London to Birmingham in 45 minutes or 50 minutes. So that's still
and that's still
acted almost like a. Okay, it's interesting. I was at Euston the other day, and it's coming up quickly. Or the station itself is coming up very quickly now, and I believe the lines are down. So it's it'll be good, and it'll be interesting to see how people respond.
They've still got a few years to finish it, but that's the real drive. I mean, I think what the government recognised is that they relied on London a lot. And they wanted to create multiple cities in the UK. So that's what the HS2 just brings into play: the Manchesters, Birmingham's, Liverpool's, Nottingham's, all the north. Hence why they call it the Northern Powerhouse. And I think if we're looking at last 12 months, again, it was all doom and gloom. Am I allowed to say unqualified? Probably unqualified person on the news saying the property market's going to crash. Well, actually, Liverpool's grown by 7% in the last 10 months. Manchester's grown by 7%. Wow. Nottingham's grown by 6%. Birmingham,
that's incredible.
Actually, slightly slower rate than its norm, but still 5%. Leeds over 5%. You know, so actually, when you start looking at it, this property crash was just brought up by a scaremongering opinion in the press.
It's incredible. It's incredible to look at it, and I guess we can relate that to Australia as well. And this month alone, Sydney saw 3%, Brisbane saw 2%, and Melbourne saw 1.8%. So for the year across the country, they've seen an increase of 13.5%, which has been incredible to see. And this, like you're saying, that people can come in and scare the public and tell them there's going to be a massive housing crash, but people need somewhere to live at the end of the day. And if there's you've got low interest rates at the moment as well. But it's just almost and with all the stimulus in place as well to help people get onto the ladder, it's almost the perfect time to be buying. People can't spend their money out at the pub or on a expensive holiday around Europe. They've got savings there now, which makes a massive difference.
That's a good point. I think people have also reflected with COVID. I think lots of people have reflected on their lifestyles and what's important, and whether that's their long-term financial security, or have they done enough, or they might want to spend all their money. Who knows? Whatever way around they've gone. But I think, and you see that in the housing market. You said there's always somewhere people need to live somewhere.
People are still working full-time from home now. They have money sitting in their bank account. They can't go to the pub. They can't go on extravagant holidays. And I think the way in which we want to spend our money has changed now. And with the government stimulus is in place, and you've got your stamp duty holidays. The way in which we spend our money and to get on the property ladder is a lot more easy now, an easier process, you could say. And I think it's been a big driver, which is why we're seeing these growths.
I think, like I mentioned, it's that part of people just actually reflecting on what they do and don't do as well, or what they'd like to do better with. And I think reality is, when you sit there and think about the amount of money you potentially waste on nights outs, or food here, or coffees here, there, and everywhere, I think people look at property, and I had a couple of I know friends really who have earned very good money during their career, but never considered property. Not because they didn't think it was a good investment, just because they were living their lives and living to their means and enjoying themselves. And I think what happened over the last year, 15 months, is they themselves are like, wow, okay, I'm in my 30s. I've not bought a house. Don't know why. I've earned far more than the average person. And it took that for them to actually sit down and realise, wait a minute, I need to think about my financial security long term when I want to retire. And both of those friends that I'm talking about have gone on to buy a couple of properties each in the last 15 months, as not to live in, but just purely for investment. And again, if we look at
investment.
I can look at the UK market. It's only ever taken 14 years for a property equity value to double. So if you're investing on the basis that it's a medium-term investment, 5 years plus, then it doesn't matter if you're going to sell it again, quite frankly.
No, you're going to make money on it. It's going to increase in value on that capital growth. So definitely. I guess that can move us on to the next question around, has your mindset changed towards investing since COVID? Have you seen, and even Brexit actually, has the mentality towards investing for you changed, and the people that you're dealing with over in the UK or Europe or where be it?
I think Brexit in certain areas has done very well for the UK. So there was, again, a lot of scaremongering on the press and investment. And to be quite frank, it never really stopped. Brexit didn't stop the investment. So I think, but what Brexit did do is maybe certain overseas investors that were thinking more homely, they did look towards the coastal areas. So we saw a drive from certain areas. I mean, we talk about the Isle of Wight where I live, for example. Brexit drove a lot of people that were maybe considering moving to Spain. Well, okay, where's the closest comparable? The Isle of Wight. So Brexit done very well for the coastal areas, but the southern areas and certain places like that. Whereas I think it didn't really change anything in terms of the city investment. It didn't change anyone's view. Personally, I think to me, COVID and Brexit, I never really was fazed about. I saw the international investments were coming into the UK from overseas investors, and equally, I could see UK-based investors continue investment. So to me, it was never a concern. We did get a lot of hesitation, I would suggest, around just before, just the end of 2018, start of 19. You did get some of the lower level investors, maybe who've got 2 or 3 properties. They were starting to think, "Oh, should I buy anymore? Because is Brexit going to make it crash?" And I stuck to my guns back then, and I said, "No, it's not going to do anything." And I was right. It hasn't. So. I believe in the investment.
Leaping and bounds now.
Yeah, I believe in it. I think COVID has made everyone. I come back. I said it a minute ago. I do think COVID maybe made people reevaluate where they want to invest. So, some people very direct. I'm only going to invest in London, or I'm only going to invest in my local town, wherever it might be. I do think COVID had a bigger effect in people's mindset of where I invest. Now, that might be down to multiple reasons. Maybe they want the idea of having a nice seaside place or a nice city place, vice versa. But it's definitely made people think about where they want their investments more than Brexit did.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess it's good to see that there's still the interest from Brits or Europeans wanting to invest cross border, essentially. So it hasn't shut off the investment from overseas investment, which is
we have a lot of Hong Kong investors, Hong Kong, South Africa. There's a lot of interest in the UK property from overseas. So not just Europe, it's predominantly outside of Europe as well. So it's interesting.
Of course.
I don't come into.
It's interesting. I wrote an article yesterday.
Too many Aussies.
I wrote an article yesterday. Exactly. You got to keep them away.
It's fantastic. But Australians are fantastic. So don't blame them.
Yeah, definitely. You spent a bit of time over there, didn't you?
I had.
There for a while.
One of the best places I've visited. I think I call them Aussies, but Australians respect their country. They look after it. And that's one of the key things that stood out to me, actually, is the way in which they looked after their country. Respected things they had, and I thought it was an amazing place.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's going back to the article I wrote yesterday, though. They were talking about international investment, and I think for the first time it's been 2 years now, but the United States and United Kingdom and Singapore have overtaken China in terms of investment into Australia, which is massive, considering that in 2015 China contributed $32 billion worth of money into the market. So it's good to see that there is now interest from places like the UK or the States, and they see the opportunity over there. And like you said, I think Australia is we're very proud of the country that Australia is. It's a beautiful place to live, and very fortunate to live over there. So I think I think that's going to continue to go once borders open as well. Obviously they've got the strict border closures at the moment, but once borders open, it's going to be a madhouse. I think there's all that pent up demand, which will be interesting to see.
Really interesting when they open the borders. Where Australia has been very strict with the borders. I agree. I'd be surprised if it doesn't kick on like that.
Yeah, exactly. Let's hope so. I guess final question that I think we'll get to now, and I've chosen to do the "What does a wealthy life mean to you?" And I guess what's wealth to you, essentially? What's your perspective on it? Obviously, some people want the jazzy cars and the fancy lifestyle and the big houses, but to a lot of people as well, it's the passive income and feeling safe. And anyway, we'll let you explain a bit about your approach to it.
To be fair, COVID and the loss of my little sister last year maybe changed my answer here. Maybe prior to my sister passing away, I might have had a different opinion. But the one thing, and I'll come back to when I was 7 years old, I looked at my parents and my family, and they were able to give their children and themselves a comfortable lifestyle. So to me, wealth is living comfortably. Now, I've never been, albeit I've gone against it in the last couple of weeks, but one for the fancy cars and things like that. You know, I bought a Mustang, so I'm hypocritical about what I'm but historically, I've always been along the lines of, I just want to be comfortable. And what comfortable means to me is, if I want to go on holiday for 3 months tomorrow, I'll go on holiday tomorrow. If I want to treat my son or my wife or whoever to what they want, I will. I'm not saying I do, because I'm pretty stingy, but I know that I'm in a position. And fortunately for me, property has given me that comfortable lifestyle where I do have that passive income. And when I did go to Australia for a few months, it enabled me to go there without worrying about money, whether I needed to work. I could go there and enjoy it. So to me, I think it's that work-life balance of making sure you spend and you're able to spend that time with your family and friends, because to be quite frank, you could have all the money in the world. If you don't see them, what's the point? That's what wealth is to me anyway.
Exactly. Well, that's a good one. It's a good answer, I guess. It's good to get different perspectives on it.
I did go against all of that when I bought the Mustang, but that was just something where I thought,
why not? Enjoy it. Splash out. Enjoy it. Exactly. How is the Mustang? I bet you spotted or heard the whole way around the Isle of Wight. Yeah.
It was one of those childhood things again. I come back to the comfort. It's a childhood thing that I never done, and I think maybe I don't want to be morbid, but maybe the passing of my sister made me think, well, do you know what? I've worked hard. I've got properties all over the place. I've looked after my family and friends. So why not have a car? Because I normally drive around in a full electric little Civic that is not fancy.
That's beautiful. Doing the environment some good there, mate. That's what we like. Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much for jumping on today, Charlie. I appreciate it. It's been good to chat to you and good to catch up again. It's been too long, so we need to get you over to London, or I need to get over to the Isle of Wight actually and catch up and check it out. So it's been good, and thank you very much. And you'll be up this weekend?
In a couple of weeks, I'll be up in London anyway, so I'll let you know when I'm up.
Definitely keep me posted, and it'll be good to catch up. We'll go from there. But thank you, Charlie. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and thank you for jumping on the podcast. We'll really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.